What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA DFS Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I have joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG that y'all know is Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 D's. Paulie, this could be the last 3-game or more slate, anything bigger than a 2-game slate that we get, aside from maybe some, like you were saying, 2-day slate action. This may be the last one that we have, all together. I'm thinking it will be. What's happening?
Yep, just like that, NBA is basically over. I mean, still a lot of playoffs to go, which are probably going to be awesome. And just for DFS purposes, it's almost time to start focusing on the showdowns. 2-game slates really suck. It's just so hard to get different. Any large field tournament, you're going to be splitting a million ways. The showdown format, though, can be pretty fun, and that's where we're going to have to focus our attention if you want to get some hoops action.
I agree completely, man. So the showdowns are where it's at. It's funny, we don't like 2-game slates, we like one, but having the MVP slot and all that shit, you know what I'm saying? It helps.
Yeah.
It helps.
It does.
So I'm with you. I'm definitely, I'm happy with the way the NBA season went. More so before the bubble. In the bubble, I don't think either of us, we did all right, but we didn't hit the way we wanted to. But during the season in NBA, we had some really awesome stuff go down. Before the Gobert thing and all that shit. So it's been awesome. We'll continue to provide cheat sheets and projections over at WiseTake.com. Cheat sheets for 2-game slates. Once we get into the showdowns, we'll probably just have projections. But we will offer those for those who are subscribed. We still got baseball going on, and of course we have NFL literally a couple weeks away. I think it's like 3 weeks, something like that. Holla at your boy when you see him.
Last.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's like 2 weeks and 2 days away.
It's close, and we are very excited. We did drop the package last night for the NFL. If you want the discount, promo code NFL Dirties. Real simple, NFL Dirties. And you could get the NFL Season Pass for $75. It comes with NFL access at WiseTake.com. You'll also get access to our Slack chat. All sports in the Slack chat. Content-wise, just NFL. We also have all sports options available at WiseTake.com to go take a look. But NFL Dirties is the promo code if you're really looking to, do the dirty in the NFL this year. With that said, we'll get right into it. Shouldn't be too long of a show. We only got 3 games. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. I'm going to be, manipulating things while we go through these, and then I'm going to let the teams rip and try to get them in. We're going to start off with the Orlando Magic and the Milwaukee Bucks. We have a 227 total. The Magic are 14.5-point underdogs. They were 13.5, so 1 full point in favor of Milwaukee. We'll start with the Orlando side. Paulie, what are you doing with Orlando?
Yeah, a lot of the same. Evan Fournier, Terrence Ross, DJ Augustine. We got Gordon out again, so James Ennis, Gary Clark are in plays. Once again, it's kind of been rinse and repeat with this team. Fournier finally did pay off. Pretty much played him every slate, and he finally came through with a little 33, which I just don't see why he doesn't push for similar. Again, he's had a 19% usage rate in 3 consecutive games. He's taken 13, 14, and 10 shots, 6 and 9 threes. He's fairly consistent. The rebounds is what really came through differently in the last game. And, even if that's not there, hopefully he just hits a couple more shots. I think 30 is just like a floor for him. Or, I guess he could have a lower floor, but I just think that's what we should get. And if we can get a couple extra points to 35, 36, on a 2-game play, just looking to get 8 guys at 5x or better, it's going to be popular, but that's we only got 3 games to really choose from. I think you can play him and Ross together this time. I was kind of trying to separate them. But they're closing on the court together. They'll go away from Fultz and bring Ross on. So these guys, either one can get hot from 3. You can play them both. You can play them separate. But yeah, I'd probably have one of those 2 on every team. I wouldn't play all 3 of them with Augustine together, but Augustine would be my next favorite in terms of price and upside. It's, let's face it, it's been a point guard bubble. We're seeing Luka and guys like Jamal Murray, Malcolm Brogdon putting up big games. And, DJ Augustine has done similar in his own respect. He's had a 34.2, a 37.2, surrounded by two kind of duds. It's whether he's hot from outside or not. But a guy that'll probably be like 20% on this slate, and if he does post that 30, you're going to want to have him. Enos Clark, those are kind of more fill-in guys. If you need one more value guy to complete a lineup, they're fine. I don't think either of them has very high of a ceiling, so I'm not rushing out the door to play them, but if they're the last guy in my lineup, they are absolutely fine. And Vooch is all right. He's exceeded his value like twice, but for the most part, I just expect him to kind of make his price, and I like the other studs on the slate more than him.
Yeah, it's hard to see Milwaukee not just putting the nail in the coffin and just sending this thing. I think Fournier's been pretty consistent in that he shot, like 4 for 10, 4 for 14. Like you said, the main difference of his last game was he did take a couple more shots, but it was the rebounds, which you can't really bank on or ever for a guard. So I'm with you on the Orlando guys. I'm not going to go overboard. We also have value in that Portland game, which is obviously also expected to be a blowout. I guess I just feel a little bit more comfortable with those players, I guess. So maybe the Orlando guys go a little lower owned. I don't think all of them will. I think that guys like Fultz and Augustine will get some love. But yeah, not overly excited about anyone. I probably have the most of Fournier, Augustine, Ross, and I'll have a little sprinkle of everybody else. What about the Milwaukee side, Paulie?
Yeah, I mean, they finally elevated Giannis's price, but he probably has a chance to be the highest raw scorer on the slate. He definitely has a chance to be. Maybe the Lakers game's a blowout, and all you really got to contest with is Harden. So I think you get 20 to 40% of Giannis, depending how strongly you feel about him being the actual highest raw scorer. If the game's close, then I think he definitely gets there. So I like the idea of like Giannis with a bunch of Orlando, because the better they do, the better he'll probably do. Still can't really play Chris Middleton for me, although he'll probably be like under 10%. So, maybe you get 10% of him and he has that weird 50-something, weird kind of blow-up game and helps you win a tournament on a 3-game slate, and different really kind of makes all the difference. So I wouldn't say absolutely none, but it's just hard for me to envision him being on the winning lineup. But you never know. I do like Bledsoe, do like Lopez. I'm cool with George Hill. I'm trying not to play Wesley Matthews, although he did finally have a decent game last time out. That's probably, his one good game for the whole playoffs. I wouldn't fall into that trap, but if you desperately need something down there, I guess you could try it. I'd be more inclined to play Pat Connaughton, who had the one blow-up game too, and then he really hasn't done a ton, but he's played over 20 minutes every game of the series, and I think he's more likely to have a good game than like a Wes Matthews or George Hill. It's mostly Bledsoe and Lopez that I'll have exposure to here, and Giannis.
Yeah, I think that Giannis on now that the slate is even smaller, like if you were getting 20%, you're going to bump it up to 30%, and really this like whatever scale that you played him before, same kind of deal. But there's one less game to worry about. You've got him. You've got no Dame on the slate. Obviously he's hurt, so it's really Giannis, Harden, LeBron, and AD. So again, before we had a few more studs to pick from, you got more room to get more exposure to a guy like Giannis. Even if you don't think the game is great, there's no reason not to get some. So I'll have some Giannis, maybe around 30% or so. I will have some Middleton, maybe around 20%, maybe around 30% Bledsoe. But I'm with you. I'm not too into the other guys. If they fall into place like the Lopez's and the George Hills and all this, then if the rest of the lineup looks okay, then I may keep a couple of them. But for the most part, it's those three. And for Middleton, while he has been terrible, well, his last 2 games weren't exactly terrible. It just wasn't like he just too expensive. But But the
Yeah.
but the usage has looked good the last two games. His most recent game, 33% usage rate. If there's a chance that Milwaukee blows out Orlando just because one of these guys is just unstoppable, and there's a chance that everybody sucks and just that one guy goes for 50 and three quarters. And it could be Middleton. It's probably Giannis, but it could be Middleton or Bledsoe. It's definitely possible.
Right.
With that said, let's go to the next game. We've got the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets. We have a 225 total. The Rockets went from 2.5 to 4. This is the closest game by far as terms of Vegas spreads go. We're still technically waiting on the status of Westbrook. I think they said he was a game time decision because of his quad. I don't know if we should expect him to play or not, but we will start with I think the OKC side of this. Yes, OKC first anyway. So Paulie D, talk to me about OKC.
Really like Chris Paul. They tied up in the series. They really could win this series, and they're going to go as far as he can take them. He's an all-star veteran, kind of been in these situations a bunch of times, and playing a team that's missing their second best player. So they're definitely live, and they're going to go as far as he does. He correlates with everybody. He's my favorite Thunder. Really like the way SGA's been playing. Shai Gilgeous, he's gone for 44, 51, and 44 in his last three. Hasn't even really shot that great from outside, but he just does a little bit of everything. Last game, he had no steals and blocks. The game before that, he had 4 steals and a block. He gets double-digit rebounds from time to time. He just does a little bit of everything. Very fast pace. Like him quite a bit. Like Dennis Schroeder, too. I wouldn't play all three together, but 2 out of 3 is fine in any lineup. Danilo Gallo, this guy sucks, but similar to Middleton, there is a world where he has a really good game, and he's easily affordable at 6'3". You can mix him in, but don't expect too much ceiling. Steven Adams, I think, is a guy worth sprinkling in at 5,500. Probably be very low owned, and I'm still all right with this Dort guy, who's got 15 to 20% usage on 25 to 35 minutes, and if he's the last guy into my lineup, I don't mind him over an Enos or a Gary Clark. I think it's very likely that he scores slightly higher than them. So he's fine. Paul, Gilgeous are the two I like the most, and I'm all right with a little bit of Schroeder, Gallo, Adams, and Dort.
Yeah, I think Chris Paul's definitely my favorite, one of my favorite guards on the slate. SGA's been playing phenomenally. The price is slowly getting there, but still plenty of upside if he has one of those games. Schroeder, I think, because his price has gone up, the ownership may go down. It's pretty much what you said. I think Paul's the one that I'll have any substantial ownership of, because on a 3-game slate, you can kind of have 20 to 30% of pretty much everyone that you consider to be a decent play. Paul is one of the guys that I'll have a little higher on, 35, 40, something like that. The rest of the guys somewhere between 20 and 30, probably Paul, SGA, like you said, and then the Schroeder, Gallo, Adams in their own tier. And then working in some of the Dorts, as far as the value goes, because we don't have a lot of super strong value outside of that Portland chalk, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But I agree with you. I think Chris Paul is my favorite here as well. This should be one of the closer games. They're still a very they're still a very stackable team in terms of pricing, but it's a little different. The prices for Schroeder and SGA did go up a little bit, so they kind of don't grade out as well from a price standpoint. But I like it. I'm with it. Let's talk about the beard.
The beard, yeah. I guess because this is supposed to be a close game and the other two aren't, he's the most probable to have a high ceiling game because the game's likely to be close down to the wire, and he's going to be doing just about everything. 11-8 is not easy to swallow, but he pays it off. He should go for 60 and probably more. And, they had a comfortable 2-game lead. Now it's tied 2-2. He's probably going to try to do just a little bit more than he has been. And if I had to choose a stud today, it would be him. Giannis probably a close second. But I do think Harden has the likeliest highest ceiling on the slate. I'm going back to Eric Gordon. He's been good to me. Even when he's not really playing that well, he was just priced too cheap. And I think he still is. I think he really hasn't played well yet, and that 7 or 8 threes out of 10 his game is coming, right. This guy's a good shooter. I don't know why he hasn't had a single good shooting game, but it's just, in my opinion, more likely for it to happen. And at 6K, he's probably just too cheap. I think he could easily 6X with a 36, and I think he goes into the 40s today. So I'll be playing a bunch of Eric Gordon, unfortunately. The rest of Houston doesn't really get me too excited. I have like a gut feeling on Robert Covington, so I'm going to play him at like 35% today. At 5,700, you should be able to fit him with, really any kind of build. And he's just a guy I have just like a gut feeling kind of goes off today. Jeff Green's fine, getting a ton of minutes. They don't really have anyone else to take his place, so he's just going to get all the minutes he can at center. The Newell House is, finally his price is kind of catching up to, what he's been doing. Still, what he's been doing at his price is 5.5x on this slate. That might be more than enough. So he's a nice play. I'll probably get 30% or so. PJ Tucker, he gets a ton of minutes as well. He, had a couple high 20s games at 4-3. You'd take that as well. So I like the Houston side. This is my favorite game for game stacking. Harden's my favorite stud. Gordon's one of my favorite mid-tier. And, Covington and House aren't too far away from them. So probably going to have a lot of Houston today, regardless of, stars and scrubs or balanced build. They kind of fit both ways.
Does any of this change if Westbrook gets ruled in?
Yeah, definitely. Basically, the only guy I'd be interested in would be Harden.
Yeah.
Maybe, I'd keep a share or two of Covington, but that's going to kill Jeff Green, Covington, Eric Gordon, the Newell House at their prices. So,
yeah.
PJ Tucker would probably be the only one left to really have any exposure to it if Westbrook plays.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Westbrook will play, but, I'm not in charge of that shit. So in the event that he's not, I'd like to keep everybody prepared. Assuming he's not in, then our projections don't have him in because I don't think he's going to play, but I will update them if he gets ruled in. I'm with you. I think Harden makes the most sense. I expect Harden to be the most popular stud because it makes sense. Westbrook is out. This is the closest game by far. So I'll have some shares of him. Probably going to be slightly underweight just to try to get different. I think I'm going to go heavier in that last game on the Lakers side in terms of the studs, just because I think that I expect them to be lower owned with everybody hopping on Portland, kind of just assuming that Portland's going to get rolled. I think some of the Lakers studs can go a little lower owned. I do like Gordon in the mid tier again. I'm with you on Covington. I think the price has come down to a point where it's worth a shot. He's had a streak of shitty games, but that's not really the player he is. I like going back to Jeff Green. It wasn't him, it was Tucker last time, but these guys seem to be trading off, so I'll go right back to Jeff Green. And the Newell House has been super consistent around the 5 to 6x mark, depending on where his price lies. So I think it's fair, and I like it. If Westbrook gets ruled in, I agree it's going to kind of ruin everything, except for Harden, because this is a playoff game, and you expect Harden to do dirts. But we'll have to see. We'll wait and see if he gets ruled in or not. But if he's out, I'm with you. Houston is a team I definitely want to have a good chunk of exposure to. Last game, we've got the Portland Trailblazers and the Los Angeles Lakers. We have a 222.5 total. The Lakers are currently 13.5 point favorites, which is up half a point from 13. We know no Dame Dollar for Portland, unfortunately. He suffered a knee injury, and he will not be available for this game. Huge blow to the WiseTake Nation. Just a huge crippling blow to not have Dame Dollar on the last 3-game slate or more of the entire season. Paulie, talk to me about Portland.
Yeah, I think they kind of ran out of gas anyway. Even if he didn't get hurt, this was going to be a tough spot after getting just humiliated 3 games in a row by this pretty weak Lakers team. Really just didn't see that coming from this team. They're really much better than they played. But, every game they played was like a playoff game since they got back to the bubble, and I guess that kind of caught up to them. And then Dame broke his finger. I think that probably impacted him more than it should have, or I would have liked it to. But hard to see them winning today. I do think they put up a valiant effort, though. Like, this is still a pretty talented team, and McCollum fills right in for Dame. You got Anthony Simons coming off the bench to kind of fill the Gary Trent role. Gary Trent will move into the CJ McCollum role. And, maybe they have like nothing to lose and they play well. They got some vets like Carmelo out there that probably still want to, put out a good effort. I think the game plays close. I don't think that's any bias because Dame's not here. I don't really care. But I first of all, the Lakers are just really not that good. AD's been playing out of his mind, and they're just not that good of a team. Like Portland should really hang with them even without Dame, and I think they do. I think this game's closer. So like, I think CJ McCollum, you only really play with some Lakers studs. Like if they get blown out, he's not going to get to where he needs to, and it's because they get smoked and he doesn't really finish the game. If the game's close, then he does exceed his value, and then you're going to want these guys together because then the game's close. And the Lakers guys are sealing out a lower ownership too. So CJ's kind of like the linchpin to kind of game stacking and, playing like a guy like LeBron or AD. Nurkic kind of fits that as well. It's like if Portland hangs in there, he probably finally has a good game with no Dame. He's going to see a usage increase. I think Carmelo's a fine play if you think it's close. Then you got Whiteside, Trent, Simons, and Henzonia that I think are fine in either format. I think if the game's close, they probably exceed their prices and have good games. Maybe 2 or 3 of them in a lineup works out. If the game blows out, they get extra minutes with high usage, and they probably make value that way. So I think regardless, the cheap Portland Trailblazers are firmly in play. And then the guys, Melo, McCollum, Nurkic, if you do like them, then that means this is a closer game, in which case you're going to want to run it back with some Lakers as well. And the only real Lakers are LeBron or AD, so it becomes like a full-blown game stack at that point.
Yeah, this is my favorite game for tournaments to take a shot on. I agree with you, Paulie. I'm just going to kind of take a shot and hope this game stays close. The value guys, mainly Trent and Simons, I agree with you in that number one is getting bumped to a starter's role. The other one's getting bumped to a 6-man type of role. And more importantly, they're blowout proof. They are the young guys on the team. So I anticipate them playing regardless. If this game does get ugly, I still think those guys will get time. And I like them all. I'm going to have a lot. One trend you notice, Paulie, is in these playoff slates, there's been a lot of basically stacking that's been winning. You'll see 4 or 5 guys from one team on the winning lineup, and I think Portland might be that team for us. They have value. I mean, think about this. All the games were projected to be kind of, I mean, listen, a 13-point spread is wild. I understand there's no Dame. But if you look at the prices of the Portland players, they're not priced for Dame to be out. Their prices didn't move. So I know that the game may not be close or whatever, but we're still getting like a lot of usage for the minutes these guys are on the court. CJ McCollum, who I'll have a lot of, is also playing with like a fractured back. So I do think we'll see Nurkic, Melo, Whiteside, Trent, Simons, like all these guys get an opportunity to take more shots than we've really seen with Damon McCollum on the court. So I'm with you, man. Portland is the team. I know Portland's going to be popular. I don't care. I think the way we get different is, like you said, Paulie, is building for a closer game and bringing it back with some Lakers for the studs. Just to get different, get different. In cash games, I'll play Harden than Giannis. But in tournaments, I think I'm going to play AD LeBron, figure that out, have an equal distribution of both, and try to get dirty that way. What about the Lakers side?
So, there's 2 kind of game flows here as well. It's, if the game's close, then you want, one of LeBron or AD. I don't think you go both on the same team, but I wouldn't say it's, like it can't work out. I think you're going to be stretched too thin. And really, I think if you're playing one of them, more so than pairing them, you really want to play CJ McCollum, is going to have a big game in order for Portland to hang in there. So I think more so than trying to pair Davis and LeBron, you do one of them with McCollum. Then everyone else is cheap. I think Kuzma could be an interesting play, more so in the blowout build where they're, kind of resting LeBron and AD in the fourth, but they let Kuzma run around and take a million shots. We've seen him do it in some of the bubble games. I think you could take a shot on like Danny Green, KCP, Alex Caruso. I think I'd allow like up to 15% of either. But that's it. It's one of the studs most likely in the majority of my builds.
Yep, that's my exact plan as well. Is pretty much to play a lot of Portland starters and then bring it back with one of LeBron or AD. My only problem with them both is I'm worried. I don't love the value. I mean, granted, we have Portland value we could use, which, yeah, so maybe in some teams I'll have them both. But for the most part, I think I'll have one. So I don't have to dig too dirty with the value plays on the rest of the slate. But I'm with you, bro. That's going to be my method. If you want to roll the dice with some of the other Laker players, be my guest. That's fine. But LeBron AD, I'm just going to play that this game stays closer than people think. Even though I love Dame Dollar. The usage rate off the court is massive. So even if this game blows out in 3 quarters, you still might be able to get some decent returns on some of these guys. Maybe not the Lakers so much, but the Portland guys, because they're not priced. Like, they're priced for a full game, yeah, but with Dame on the court. We're talking about a big usage player off the court. So I'm rolling it as ice. That was a.
But you prefer Anthony Davis or LeBron?
I think I prefer LeBron by a hair. And it's more so about I think if Portland stays close, then maybe we see somewhat of an iffy shooting game. Because Portland can't play defense. So it's going to come down to, like, does AD does not have a shot today? And if that's the case, I think I'm relying more on LeBron to get, like, a triple-double, do a little extra, get his team involved, all that kind of good stuff. So I'll say slightly LeBron. But obviously that's a tough take because AD's been so fucking good. I mean, they got no answer for him. Pimpin'. Let's get into the chat. Michelle Ruggiero says best utility pick at 3,700.
Pat Connaughton.
Pat. Justin Jennings. He just says good afternoon, fellas. What up, Justin? Good afternoon to you too, my friend. Offensive username Beard B-Day. We have Donovan Brewer, also B-Day boy. Yes, that's right. It is James Harden's birthday. I forgot to mention that. The beard.
What's that mean?
Birthday all day. That means that he was partying last night in the bubble naked. He was in his birthday suit with a bunch of champagne, and unfortunately he's in a bubble, so it's probably with a bunch of his teammates. But I'm sure not the way he anticipated it, but
the last stand-up comedian I went and saw, he did a bit on people who, they're looking at your ID like, your birthday's March 12th? I'm March 17th. People get excited over that. It's like, wow, we got 1 billion people in the world and only 365 days that it could be your birthday. There's going to be a lot of people with similar birthdays.
I know.
I thought that was funny.
Let me see. Just want to clarify a couple of things. Okay.
Clarify some stuff.
Gotta clarify. Takari Davis, is George Hill out? FanDuel shows him as inactive. I didn't hear anything about George Hill. As far as I know, he's in. Right?
Yeah, I didn't hear it either.
Lytle Warmack says Westbrook playing. I think that's an opinion because I have not heard anything on Westbrook still. He's still listed as a game time decision. Double check the sources. So Lytle, if that is your opinion, you're more than welcome to share your opinion. But I have not seen any confirmation that he's playing. Jeffrey,
they're not gonna.
Yeah, I agree. Jeffrey Lanier, does Super Mario get more minutes?
Who's Super Mario? Hanzonia? Yeah, does. He does get more.
Yeah, with Dame off the court, we're talking about 40-something minutes this guy was playing every night. That now has to get dispersed between some people. I mean, you can say, but what about McCollum? McCollum's already playing 40-some minutes a game. So, they're going to have to find 40 minutes to split. I doubt they're going to give it to one person. So I do expect multiple people to benefit, and Hazonia is one of them. Offensive username, CJ, Trent, or Simons, pick 2. So McCollum, Trent, Simons. I mean, that's a pretty big price difference between McCollum and the rest, but
dirt
and dirts.
I think that Trent and McCollum would be my pick.
Yeah, I think so too. I expect CJ to run the offense and Trent more of a shooter. Simons is the one that I think will run the that'll run point guard when McCollum's not needed to play. But I think that they're going to prefer McCollum on the ball. And if these guys are going to stand around anyway, I prefer Trent to be that guy because Trent's a better shooter in my opinion. And Trent's a starter, so I think Trent will get more minutes, and I expect him to close. I look forward to Ella. I don't see any other questions, Nation. Please hit that like button on your way out. We will be back at 6 p.m. for baseball. Yes, FanDuel tried to make our lives miserable and start the slate a little early, but we will still be starting the show at 6 p.m. Eastern. We will just address the FanDuel games first and then move on to our dirty takes and diabolical schemes that take over the DFS world. Paulie, anything in closing before we get up out of here?
No. Good luck today. Do the dirt as usual.
That's it. Do the dirty do. And that's it. For Paulie D, for myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Hey.